Hello and welcome. Ellen G. White, the woman on whose spiritual revelations the Adventist church is built, must be sitting upright in her grave and listening to the arguments against the vote at the 60th session of the General Conference of the Seventh-day Adventists in San Antonio, Texas recently. The vote was not whether women should be ordained as pastors. It was a vote on whether each division of the church, such as the conference in Jamaica, should have the right on its own to decide to ordain women as pastors. In other words, in enlightened Jamaica, with a woman prime minister, a female chief justice, DPP, at least one deputy police commissioner, and a record number of women seated in major boardrooms and senior management positions, hundreds of female principals, the conference voted that Jamaica should not get it in its head that it can make the decision to ordain women as pastors on its own. That was the subject of Erica's Edge, which called out the action for its stupidity, for which Ian Boyne and Professor Bernard Headley and others responded. Professor Headley called me an outsider in his letter to the editor, because Professor Carolyn Cooper made it very clear she was a Thornback Adventist. I do not know how Professor Headley came by the decision that I was an outsider. He said my position was uninformed and vulgar. You know what, Professor Headley? Knock yourselves out. Boyne, who goes to some Saturday church, was critical because I called them stupid, even though my commentary was not even about gender equality. Despite the feedback, I have not seen or heard anything which would cause me to withdraw the sentiments expressed, except it may now be stupid with explanation. For me, the vote was about common sense in an enlightened age. Common sense is not biblical. It is something you either have or you do not have. You are either enlightened or you are not. It is my view that after the 58% who voted to keep Jamaica in its place, they have no common sense and are unenlightened. Worse, the Jamaican conference appeared to have displayed wimpish acquiescence to the vote. So when Boyne talked about Paul writing to the church and saying, "Dear brothers," instead of brothers and sisters, I nearly did. All you did was support my argument that you do not want women to be even recognized in the church. When Paul was writing to his brothers, women were not the leading academics, occupying some 70% of university places or equivalent number of seats in the synagogues. But this is the case now. They could have been ignored for their lack of academic acumen then, but that certainly cannot be applied now. At the tertiary level, women account for more than 70% of all students. In the churches, women make up 80% or more of the membership. So, ignore women at your own peril. Boyne talked about the cultural and patriarchal dominance by men at the time the Bible was written. Let me get this straight. You are telling me that instead of raging against that in the 21st century, Jamaica voted for that practice to continue? That is not only stupid, it is punitive. And if that is your position in defense of the Adventists, who is the fastest growing religious group in Jamaica in the last 20 years, they would have failed the majority of its members. And that is not only stupid, it is coward. Indeed, the Bible has become elastic, cut to fit, including by the Adventists themselves. Christians in general have chosen select parts to suit their doctrine. Hence, when women were silenced in the church, it did not mean they were to shut up forever. The same way pastors are now not walking around in loincloth and garb preaching the gospel. Luxury vehicles have become the synonym for foot. Where in the Bible does it say you are to use church money and buy luxury cars for the pastor? In fact, the disciples were mostly fishermen. Which Adventist pastor is a fisherman or carpenter like Jesus? If you are not elastic, follow the Bible to the T. If you are going to cite the Bible for the position on women, cite it and practice everything else. Otherwise, theological bigotry is not outside, it is inside. For me, it would be enlightening to hear the position of the Jamaica Conference going into the Texas vote. Or were they too coward to go against the tide in the face of common sense in order to preserve and maintain cultural dominance? I am so sorry that the vote in Texas took place before the women's 4x400 meter relay in Beijing, China in the World Championships. A cancer survivor, Noveline Williams-Mills, displayed courage beyond words in anchoring a nation's hope. She has shown more courage than the Jamaica Conference to date. So I am waiting to hear if the Jamaica Conference defended its right to make the decision or if it succumbed to cowardice. Courage to go against the tide is what got the disciple Stephen stoned to death. Since I know none of you are willing to be stoned to death, you may want to learn the motto of Kingston College. The brave may fall, but never yield. Ponder that. Until next week, stay close to the edge.